thanks for having me again to talk about the BRIC program. So I'm Shelly O'Toole. I'm the Hazard Mitigation Unit Supervisor at MEMA. We at MEMA and the Mitigation Unit are your main point of contact for all FEMA hazard mitigation assistance grants, and that includes legislative pre-disaster mitigation, hazard mitigation grant program, flood mitigation assistance, and the BRIC program, which is the one we're going to talk about today. At the present time, BRIC is the only open funding opportunity, so we're going to focus on that today. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is hazard mitigation? So in a nutshell, hazard mitigation is increasing your level of protection and minimizing impacts of disasters. Basically, we're looking to save lives and money through hazard mitigation. Next slide, please. Okay, great. So building resilient infrastructure and communities, the BRIC program, that is the program that we're looking to speak about today. So this is hazard mitigation funding for states, tribes, and local communities, as well as special district governments. This program establishes an annual national competitive award, anywhere between $500 million to $2 billion, depending on the year. It can fund projects for up to $20 million federal share. Projects can last up to 36 months. The state allocation is different every year. So for this current cycle, there's a $2 million construction project in C&CB activities. We'll talk about that in a little bit. That's the state set aside. So we have up to $2 million just for Massachusetts. In addition, we have $1 million for building code projects. And I'm particularly interested in hearing about your building code projects. That one's usually undersubscribed, so we'd love to hear your ideas for that funding. There's also a tribal allocation available. The BRIC program is announced by an annual NOFO, typically every year. It says here the statement of interest was due on April 21st. We have extended that for the folks on this call. So if you could get your statement of interest to us by Monday, May 4th, that would be super helpful, and we can accept them up until then. That is the first step in the application process. The final step in the application process is the actual application, and that's through the FEMA Go portal, and that's due to us on Monday, June 8th. Great, next slide. Thanks. So eligible activities by project types, I won't list them all, but these slides will be available after. Some of the more popular ones we see are flood mitigation, generators, any of those types of projects, slope stabilization, but any of these project types are eligible under FEMA guidance. So we'll be happy to talk to you about any of these types of projects. Next slide, please. All right, so hazard mitigation assistance project requirements. You need to mitigate a natural hazard. You need to demonstrate an increased level of protection. So we're not replacing in kind. We're looking to increase that level of protection. It needs to be feasible to implement, including permittable. It needs to be cost effective. I'll talk about that in a minute. And you need to comply with all the environmental and historic preservation requirements. Okay, next slide. The benefit cost analysis. So this is a requirement for any construction projects that you're looking to submit to BRIC. So what the BCA is basically doing, it's measuring the cost effectiveness of a project. So essentially, this tool looks to ensure the quantifiable benefits outweigh the costs of the project. This is demonstrated through the FEMA BCA toolkit, which can be downloaded from the FEMA website, but we can include help for that through our technical assistance calls. Next slide. Some things you need to know about FEMA hazard mitigation grants if you're not familiar with them already. So MEMA is the conduit for applications. So you will submit your application to MEMA, and then MEMA will package all those applications and submit them to FEMA as one grant application for the state. The process from grant application to grant award can take several months to a year or longer. Please be prepared for that. These grants are not for something you're looking to implement this summer, say. It will take some time for FEMA review and then the award. It is a sub-applicant's responsibility to maintain and keep current your local hazard mitigation plan for eligibility. So your hazard mitigation plan needs to be valid at the time of application and award. We do have an opportunity to request a 1-year grace period for that under certain circumstances. So, talk to us. We can talk to you about your project and see if that would be appropriate in your specific case. It's also the subrecipient's responsibility to ensure that proper procurement is followed for all of these grants. So these are federal dollars, so you do need to follow federal procurement. That can vary from the state procurement rules, so that's just something to keep in mind up front. Next slide, please. Here are some examples of projects that we've seen over the years through the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Assistance umbrella. So that includes all of the programs I talked about in the beginning. So this is a culvert upgrade in the town of Merrimack. So as you can see, the culvert up top was much smaller and conveyed a lot less water than the culvert at the bottom. So this is a great example of, a project that is a popular project type that we see for these grant applications. Next slide. Bank stabilization. So this was in the city of Leominster. So the Nashua Riverbank Stabilization Project. This focused on protection of a critical sewer line, which is at the top of the bank that you can see there. We're actually doing 2 similar projects on the Nashua River, and this is a great example of a eligible activity under this funding. Next slide. This was the first of its kind in the area, shelter microgrid. This was in Chappaquiddick. So the community center needed backup power, and I guess this was put to the test during the winter storms this year. So this was the first of its type to be funded in Region 1, and this was similar to a generator project, but utilizing the microgrid technology for this backup power, I should say. Next slide. Speaking of generators, that's always a popular item for these grants. So this was some generators in the city of Greenfield. So pump station generators. Generator projects do need to protect a critical facility. So pump stations are definitely a critical facility. So those types of generators can be funded through these programs as well. Next slide. Here's a flood resiliency retrofit in Hull. So this elevated critical electrical assets above future flood predictions. This one's underway and is, there's a couple of components to this project. Part of it's completed and part of it is still underway. So we're looking, in this project, we were elevating those critical components so they'd be out of harm's way next time flooding would occur. Next slide. There is a non-federal cost share involved in these projects, so it's typically 25% of the total project cost. In order to submit your application to FEMA, you do need to have that non-federal cost share identified. So that could be, local, state, or private cash payments, of course, FFIO support. It could also include in-kind contributions like labor, equipment, or materials. It is important to note that other federal funding cannot be used as match for these grants. Next slide. Here's the application timeline for our current cycle. So, excuse me. The statement of interest, as I mentioned, was due a couple weeks ago, but we will extend that to you all till this coming Monday, May 4th. The federal grant period had opened, in March, but the state deadline in the FEMA Go portal is June 8th. It is important to make note of that date because the federal NOFO states a July date. That is the date that MEMA needs to submit to FEMA. There's a lot of work that happens between that June 8th and that July 20th date. So we need to ensure that your project is submitted through the FEMA Go portal by that June 8th deadline. We will then in turn conduct state review. We have a committee that will be reviewing and ranking your projects during that month or so time period. July 20th, we will be submitting the full state application to FEMA. And then the award notifications and the project initiations, they're to be determined. As I mentioned earlier, it can take quite some time for FEMA review and obligation. We're not exactly sure when that money will be coming, but we say about a year, maybe sometime next summer. But again, we just have no way of knowing. Next slide. Technical assistance is available. The way you would request that technical assistance is to submit a statement of interest on our website. It's a very short form. It should take you less than 10 minutes to complete. It's just a high-level overview of your project. It gives us a snapshot of, what your project's all about, whether or not it's eligible, and then we'll reach out to schedule a meeting with you to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the project, talk about, ways that we can help you enhance your application and, get it in good shape to be submitted to FEMA. Next slide. Here are some helpful links to help you with developing your application. And again, this information will go out to you. There's a lot of information that goes into these, and these links are meant to help you with that. And I think I have one more slide. Yep, this is our contact information. So feel free to reach out to us at any time to talk about your project. Again, I can't stress enough, please just submit a statement of interest. Even if you think you might, or, thinking about a project, submit it to us so we can get it on our radar. Oftentimes, it does take a couple of cycles to get an application. These applications are pretty involved. There are a lot of components to it. And sometimes, communities, you might have an idea for a project right now, excuse me, that you might not be ready to submit by June 8th. We'd be happy to start that conversation now to be ready for a future grant round. So please just get that project in front of us so we can help you take a look and see, what we can do to get you funding through FEMA.